Well, I think we should start by saying that human capital and skills have become more important, right? That's fill in the usual stuff you'd expect someone to say after that, right? If you're having a longer debate about human capital. So education, therefore, matters more. Quality education matters more. It matters from very early in life. It matters parenting. In the very early years, you see kind of much more engaged and intensive parenting at the top of the distribution. Obviously, it matters through K-12, and it definitely matters in post-secondary. And there's this idea, I think Horace Mann's quote, that education is the great equalizer, the balance wheel in the social machinery. The great equalizer, it's a great idea. I'm a bit more with my Georgetown colleague, Anthony Carnevale, who describes the college system in the US as an engine of inequality. And not necessarily, it's not done in a malicious way, but the way that K-12 is organised and funded, and in particular the way that we stratify the post-secondary education system, it does actually serve to kind of cement those inequalities. The US is very unusual in the world in being a society where the gaps by social background at 12th grade aren't any narrower than they were at K. Most other places in the world can at least go some way towards closing those gaps because we've got the kids then, right? So you'd think public policy would do something then. It doesn't really work in the US. Actually, the UK is not great either. It comes out pretty much the same way as it went in. And then the post-secondary system takes the inequality that it's given and magnifies it because of the kind of way that there's a sorting. So 4-year selective colleges, 70% of the kids are from the top 20%. And then you see kind of very significant underinvestment by comparison in community colleges, which I think like the Cinderella of the opportunity system. I think aching for more investment and higher quality teaching, plus the whole admissions process around higher education, the complexity of the funding system. It's a nightmare. And I say this as a kind of new American with a kind of high school junior. It's a nightmare. And of course, complexity and opacity tends to be the friend of the upper middle class. It tends to be the friend of those with the education and resources to understand the complexity and navigate their way through it. So if you kind of get to understand that the ACT is better than SAT for that school there, and if you play that sport and you apply there and you do that, and it's like 8-dimensional chess, this college admissions process in the US, right? And so if you know how to play it, you can really play with it. But for people who don't have those resources, they're looking at this system that's just bewildering, and you end up just going to the local place because that's where everyone else goes. And you end up with huge undermatching problems. So the very complexity of the higher education system in the US is a problem, even before we get to the way it's financed and the subsidies that go through various tax breaks to very rich private institutions. I think that money would be much better spent on helping develop the human capital of those in the bottom 80% rather than the top 20%.